let's get start with the code. All right. So give me a minute. Let's get started with the code. There's a small error I noticed in this code. So the one is that over here. So if I can't read from the request, all right. So that means that that connection socket has an error. So in that case, you shouldn't exit the program. So let's say that you exiting the program means stuck in the server. So just because you can't make a connection to one client doesn't mean that you should stop the server. So this should change. So what we should be doing is that we should close uh, the connection socket, okay, and then say continue, and this should be repeated here as well. So this will change when we are handling errors. All right. For now, let's just go like this. Uh, so same thing here. So what you should be doing is uh, technically speaking, if the connection then okay, I'll check it out and let you guys know. For now, let's go with close connection socket. The problem is that if the socket didn't get created properly, let's comment it out, then there's nothing to close, right? So I'm not so sure about that, so let's just say continue for now. I'll check it out and let you guys know. I don't remember what to do with that scenario. All right. So yeah, that's a small well, it won't be like a really big issue, but that's not logical, right? So now, yeah, now we are done with the basics. So let's try to process the request. So let's take a look at the request first. Let's open up another terminal and use it. Yes. So what we're gonna do is compile server.c, and then let's execute a.dot. Then I'm gonna make a request using my browser. Okay, and then we have a request here. So let's take a look at the request. So what we need is that, so this is stored in an array. Okay, so this is, so if you take a look at where this is stored, excuse me. So if you go here, it's stored in this request buffer. All right, let's call it the request, so it's easier than using request buffer. Let's do this one. Oh yeah, over here as well. Let's just use request. And that's it. So this string we see, this HTTP request, is stored in this request array, right? So from that we need to get the method, the file path, uh, and the file type. At the moment there isn't a file type. Let's get that as well, so it's easier to understand. So compile, execute. Okay, so in the request I'm gonna make a request with the file type, so like this. So here now you can see that there's a file type. You know what, let's create one with it's not multiple file types. Let's go with this one for now. I'll explain it later. Okay, so now let's keep this one for reference. Okay, so we need three information, mainly the method. So this is the method. So an HTTP method specifies what the client needs from the server. So now right now it says get. So get means the client needs this request sorry, the client needs this resource from the server, so the server should give it to the client. So if this was post, that means the client is going to upload some content into the server, and then there's delete. That delete's going to delete a particular resource, and there are like a lot of HTTP methods out there. Okay, we I will go through those when we talk about HTTP protocol in another Kuppi. For now, what we should be focusing is the get method, because in the assignment it specifies that the web server should only provide websites, static websites. Because of that, we don't need to consider other methods. So all we need is the method, the file path, and the file type. Okay, so this jpg zip. For that, let's create three functions. You can do this whatever the way you like. This is the approach I prefer. So let's call it uh, get method, and to that I'm gonna pass the request. Okay, and then let's get another function to get file path. Again, gonna pass the request. Another one to get the file extension. Let's call it file ext. It's easy. Okay, so we are gonna so what I'm gonna do is then I'm gonna pass the request into to these three functions, and then gonna extract whatever I want. Okay, so let's create them over here. Jar get get method jar request. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is that over here, if you can remember that we need to get the get method, so we need to separate it based on this space. So technically what we are going to do is that we are going to use the strtok function, and the strtok function modifies the string that is passed into the function. Therefore we should create a copy, so otherwise we will end up modifying the original string, and then we won't be able to use it for we won't be able to use it later for other functions. So let's create a array to create a copy. So let's call it request cp, and then give the buffer size. Okay, so uh, this is a array to store the copy. Okay, and what we are going to do is that we are going to copy the request into this uh, request cp array. So for that, there's this function called strcpy, string copy stands for. It's in the this where is it? A string.html file. Okay, so we need to pass two arguments. The first one is the destination, so the destination is request cp, and the source is the request. There we go. So now we have created a copy. Okay, now we can use that copy whatever we like, whatever the way we like. So what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna uh, call it, let's call it method p, so it stands for method pointer. Method p, I'm gonna use str talk, and then the string, which is request, and then the delimiter is going to be space. Okay, and then let's before returning the value, let's print, and let's return the value. So it's here. And then let's comment these ones also, because we won't need them right now. This and okay, they're commented out. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to call the function printf space m, and then get method, then I'm pass the request. Oops. Okay, so this one's going return value, and the return value will be passed into this. So let's try this one out. Okay, let's execute this over here. Clear the terminal, compile, no issues, and then execute. Let's make a request. So I'm gonna make a request from my browser, and then over here it prints the method. So we get the method. Okay, so now one down, two to go. Okay, you can add comments or whatever you like. Okay, there's another thing is that because we are using this variable to modify the value, you can technically just return the value that's returned by the str function straight away. So instead of like using a variable, like you can straight away say this, and it will do the same thing. Okay, I'm not gonna run it again. So that's one down. Let's go with get file path. Then for that I'm gonna pass the request as well, and then I'm gonna make a copy again. Okay, okay, sorry. And then what I'm going to do is, so yeah, so what I'm going to do is, let's call it method doc is equal to str doc is it request cp, and then the end is going to be the space. So method talk is going to so I call str talk for the first time. So what's going to do is that it's gonna put the null character over here to the first space, and then gonna return the memory address of the capital G in the get part. Then I have to break it down again to get the file path. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call it fp talk. Fp stands for file path. Str talk. I'm gonna pass null into it, and then gonna pass space again. Okay, and then I'm gonna return fp talk. Let's print the value over here and paste fd get file path. Okay, so let's name this so it's easier to recognize. Should be method. Then over here say file path. Right. So let's compile my issue, execute. Then I'm gonna make a request from my browser again, and then here we go. We get the file path and the method. So the third one we need is the what was it? The file extension. So get file extension. Gonna pass the request again. Request. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a copy of all of these. So the same steps gonna we'll have to repeat the same steps here. So fp talk will return the file path. Okay, so it's technically a pointer that's pointing to this first slash in the file path. By using that we can get the location of this dot. Okay, oh I forgot to mention what chrr what is it? CTR, CTRR, CHR does. So what CTR, CHR does is that it looks for the given character starting from the beginning. CTRR, CHR starts looking from the end. Okay, so the extra R stands for reverse. So it's the yeah it's gonna start it's gonna look for the given character from the end. So that's what we're gonna need. We're gonna need to find the location of the last dot. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna say what is it, let's call it what dot position is equal to strchr. I'm gonna pass the pointer to the file token, and the character is dot. Okay, and then return the dot position, and let's try that one out as well. fg get file extension. Let's see, and as file path this should be file extension. Compile and made a request. And then here you go, you get the uh, file type. Alright, so now there's a small issue here. Okay, let's so yeah, let me make another request. Okay, so let's go to my browser and make another request. Let's call it localhost hello. So let's make this request, and let's check out the code. Oh, I'm not running the server. Oops. Clear it out, and then okay, we'll have to wait for a moment. The what I wanted to point out was, now let's go for the other one. I will. It's better if I like give you a live example. Okay, so let's go back to VS Code. Give me a moment. Yeah, very good. Okay, so let's try to run this again. Compile. It's working. Okay, so the request I want to make is this: localhost and hello. Okay, so if I make this request, uh, so what happens over here? It says the file extension is null. So why did it return the value null? So if we take a look at the request, over here you can see that there isn't a file extension. That's why. So what we technically did was that we just passed hello. So if there isn't an extension, that means that hello could be a directory. We don't know that yet. That error will be handled in another function if there isn't a directory called hello. So if there isn't a file extension provided by the client, so we guess that this hello is a directory, and it's requesting the index.html file in that hello directory. If it doesn't exist, then we send an error message in another function. Okay, which I will go through that later. So hope that's clear. Okay, so so if it returns null, then we are going to default into index.html. I will show you guys that later. Okay, so just keep that in your mind. If there isn't a file extension provided by the client, we uh, we assume that this is a path to a directory. So let's make another request with oops. Okay, let's run this again, and then let's make another request. Okay, now instead of just hello, let's say a b and c. Okay, so now now we assume that this is actually a path to a directory, and in the C directory there should be an index.html file. If there's an index.html file, we are going to return that. If not, then we are going to send an error. Okay, hope that's clear. With that out of the way, let's Okay, so that now we got the three information we need. Okay, so we got the method, then we got the what did we get? Yeah, we got the file path and the file extension. Keep in mind these two, the last function, the get file extension function can return null. Okay, null is an acceptable value. It's an expected value because it can return null if the client doesn't specify a file path. If these two return null, that means there's an issue with the request. Okay, because there should be a method and there should be a file path, and this is the structure that is followed by every software that makes a HTTP request. So this is the structure of the request. So that's what we are following here. And if that returns null, that means there's a problem with the request, and we are going to throw an error for that. All right. So yeah. So let's create a function for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to call no, it's going to be a void function. Void process response. Alright, so the process response gonna take 4 arguments. I will go through them one by one. Okay, let's get started. First of all, what do I call the function? Process, yeah, it's process response. And let's create function. Okay, let's go here. We'll call define the function process response. So the first thing we need to pass is the socket file descriptor, so the connection file descriptor, and then we are gonna need to pass the method, then we're gonna need to pass the file path and the file extension. In C programming and in most programming languages, it's usually as a what it's not like a hard code rule, it's more like a best practice. Try to keep the length of a line less than 79 characters. So right now it's 70. Okay, here in the VS Code you can see the line and the column you are in right now. The cursor is okay, it's in the 135th row and 70th column. Now it's fine, but if it exceeds like 79 characters, it's usually considered too long and it's hard to read. So that's why I used FP and FE here instead of saying file path and file extension, because if I use those two words, it might get little longer. It's not like it's a rule you must follow. It's like a best practice, so it's easier to read. All right. So the first thing what we are going to do is that we are gonna check whether uh, what method and file path are null. If they are null, then there's an error. So we're gonna handle that. So in the process response function, I'm gonna do both error handling and providing the requested file. Okay, so I'm gonna do both of them here. And let's go with file path is equal to, so if either of them are true, then there's an error. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to send an error file, and we need to create those error files. So let's create another directory called error, or you can call whatever you want. I like to call it error. Okay, so let's take a look at let me share screen with let's take a look at HTTP response codes. So oops, HTTP response codes. So HTTP response codes indicate whether the request, what type of a response it is. Okay, so there's like a bunch here. So 200 OK is the response we used in our basic response. If you can see here, so this is the one we used. Okay, so uh, yeah, so the 200 OK means the requested resource was found, so it's a successful request. So all the successful responses, the positive responses, start with 2. So all the values that's with 200, they are to indicate success. 300 ones are used for redirection, and 400 ones are used for client errors. So if the client made a bad request, and method not allowed, so this is the one, we will use this one as well. So this is the error we should uh, forward right now. So if method and file path, if either of them is null, that means the method, there is an issue with the method. So we are going to use this error, bad request. Sorry, there's an issue with the request, so we are gonna pass this as so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so there are other error what yeah, so other response codes as well for other types of errors. So 400 for client errors and 500 for server side errors. So if the server is facing an error and it it can't forward a particular response because there's an error in the server, we should provide these 500 error codes, not error codes, response codes are used to indicate server errors. We will be only doing client side errors. Okay, so I haven't thought of using server side errors yet. So today we will only talk about this. Okay, so what we need is this bad request. So let's create an HTML file. Let's call it 400.html. So if there's an error with the request, what we're going to do is that we're going to provide this function as the response instead of the one that's requested, because there's a problem with the request. Then well, this is fine actually. You can just use 400 bad requests for the title, and then what send a h1 tag with the 400 bad requests. I like to add a little bit of style, okay, so it looks a bit decent. So I like to add a horizontal rule and then a message, something like from C server, yeah, something like that, nothing big. And then maybe center the center this over text align. So this is CSS what we did last semester. So what this will do is that it will center all the content. So what we're going to do is that if if method or file path is null, that means there's a problem with the request. What we're going to do is that we are going to uh, send that file, this 400 HTML file. So what we're going to do is that oh yeah, I should create two variables for that. So let's go open the, and then struct, what is it, yes, stat files stat, and then a character header and data size. So here I have created three variables, so this will hold the values we want to deal with. So we are going to open the 400.html, 400.html, and then we only need to read it, so read only, and then if stat open fd, and then that, what we need to do is we need to construct the header. So we call this printf function pass header, and to that what we need is uh, let me check quickly. Yeah, it's the HTTP version. So this is the HTTP version, and then the error code, so which is 400. The error message was bad request, if I'm mistaken. Yeah, bad request. And oops, sorry. And this should be terminated with a backslash r backslash n, and then content type content type should be text HTML content length is gonna be passed, will get passed, and then connection close, right? And then what we going to do, oh, I haven't added the terminators. Yeah, and then there's another one. So the header should finish with one of these. Each line should finish with backslash r backslash n, and the header should finish with a backslash r backslash n as well. Okay, so now I'm gonna pass the file size dot st size. There we go, and that's the header. So what we're going to do is that we are going to send the header, send header. Sorry, I forgot the arguments. Send input file. So it's sockfd, and then the buffer is header str. Because we have find because we are trying to calculate the length of a string, use strlen instead of size of. Over here header is a string, right? So use header, and then no flags, and then sorry, send file. Output is sockfd, input is opened d, and then no offset, and size count is file stat st size, and then we should close the we should close yeah, opened and then we also should close the socket. Okay, and one thing we can do is we can then use return. So what this does is that the return statement stops a function from executing any further, right? So over here, because we have sent the response, there's no need to go for any content that might be below there. So we are using return. Because it's a void function, that means it doesn't return a value. We don't have to return a value. If it's an int, uh, if we say that the function is going to return an integer, then it should return an integer. But in this case, because it's a void function, we don't have to return anything. Just saying return is enough. Alright, and then it once the return statement is made, the function won't execute any further. Okay, so this is uh, this is an error handling one actually. So if there's a issue with the client request, the error is handled this way. Alright, so yeah, if then what we have to do is, as I said over here, these three functions return pointers, uh, pointing to the information we, right. So these three functions return pointers, but when we are using them, it's always a good idea to store them in a variable. Store them in a a variable. So it's, in this case, it's going to be an array. It's always a good idea to instead of using them using pointers that's uh, in those copied requests. So that's what we are going to do next. uh, let's declare few variables, so technically arrays, and let's give this 16 bytes. It's called txt 8. Let's give 16 as well. Yes, no problem. We have memory. Backslash. So, and then the file path. Okay, the file path is uh, oh, I forgot something to mention. Yeah, so let's say that uh, there should be a folder. Okay, I like to call this public. No, that's not there. So all the HTML file and all the content that the that any client can request should be within this public directory. Okay, so it should have an index.html file, index.html, like that. Okay, and yeah, all of these stuff, that technically anything that the client request should be in the public directory, and uh, the web server is gonna uh, check the public directory for any requested resource. So let's define the root document here. Define root doc, and let's call it public. So in order to get the full file path, we have to concatenate this with the file path that we got from this get file path function. All right. So what we are going to do is, because we don't know the size of the uh, file path upfront, we will have to do some dynamic memory allocation. In these two scenarios, you can allocate 16 bytes, because usually methods don't exceed 16 characters. Same with file types. All right. So yeah, but file path can be quite lengthy. You can hard code the file size. Like we can say, like, the file path should be 256 bytes, and if it's longer than that, then we are going to throw an error, something like that. But if that's what you like, then you can do that. Okay, you can create a file path 256 or whatever the value you like. Okay. uh, you can use it like this, and then if the file path requested is longer than this, then you can forward an error saying that the invalid file path. There's a HTTP uh, request. Sorry, there's a response code as well, which is 414 URL too long. So if you like to use that, then you can do that. But I prefer to do some dynamic memory allocation, and yeah, include the entire file. So we have this tdlib dot, so no problem there. So what I'm going to do is that over here, uh, size of, sorry, strlen, what is it, root document plus strlen, uh, what is it, file path plus 16. I'll explain why I added that 16 later. Alright, so this is one way we can store file type. Alright, now what we are going to do is that since we have now what we should be doing is that we should copy the values uh, from the original location to these empty arrays. To copy the method, so the function is strcpy, so string copy. Destination is let's call this method piece, otherwise it's a bit confusing. Oh yeah, so otherwise it's not confusing, it's going to conflict with this one. You can name it whatever you want. You can use whatever the case you want as well. Like you don't have to use an underscore if you like. If you use it like this, then it's completely fine as well. It's up to you. Can you can that's known as camel case. Okay. I use snake case over here. So what I'm going to do is the destination is going to be method. The source is going to be method p. Okay, so I copied the file. What is it? Yeah, I copied the method. Now what I'm going to do is copy the file path. So copying the file path should be done using two steps. So the destination should be file path. First of all, I need to copy the root document, and then I need to concatenate it with. I need to concatenate it with the file path provided by the request. So what I'm doing is, so there's an empty array. I'm copying the values in the root doc into that array and then concatenating the file path to that. Okay, hopefully you can remember what concatenate is. Okay, so after that, what we have to do is that we need to check whether fp is equal to null, which means whether the request has specified a file extension file type or not. If it hasn't specified a file type, that means the file extension should be .html, because we are going to assume that it has given us a directory path, and we are going to forward the index.html in that directory. Okay, so if fp is equal to null, that's what we are going to assume. If that doesn't exist, then we are going to forward, provide a error response. All right, so what we will do is string copy file extension should be .html, and if it hasn't specified a file file path, sorry, if it hasn't specified file type, that means, as I said, it has specified a directory path. That means the file path should is incomplete, because the the file path of the resource we want to access, it's missing the index.html part. So we are going to put that here now. File path So that's why I put this extra 16 bytes, just in case if I have to add this index.html, because if I only use size of root document and file path, then there won't be enough space to include this index.html file, just in case uh, if we have to include that. All right. And if the request has specified a if the request has specified a file path, then we can straight away say file extension should be fe. That's all. Okay, so now we included those copied processed information we need from the request into these ones, into these local variables. Okay, and from now on onwards they are going to use these local variables instead of using those pointers. So this is the way I like to use it. You can use the pointers if you like, but I have found this one is easier to manage. Okay, besides we don't have like write something that's really memory efficient. This one isn't the best memory efficient program out there because it uses like a lot of variables and stuff, but it gets the job done. Right, if you want to create a memory efficient program, then you might have to take a different approach. All right. So now we have so what did we do? So we checked whether the request is properly formatted, and if it is formatted, then what did we do is that we included the values into these local variables. Now what we going to do is that we going to check whether the method is valid. So the only method that's allowed is get, because we are only going to provide requested resources. Like the clients can't do anything other than asking for resources. The clients can't update content that's within the web server, or they can't uh, delete stuff, or they can't do anything. All they can do is ask for resources. Okay, so because they can only ask for resources, the only method that's allowed is get. So we're going to check strcmp. So this one's used to compare two strings. Okay, the first string I want to compare is method, and I'm going to compare it with this string get. If it's equal to 0, so if it's equal to 0, that means these two are equal. If it's not equal to 0, that means they aren't equal. That means that the requested method isn't get. So for that, what we are going to do is that we are going to forward another error, and this time it's going to be 400 bad request. Sorry, not that one. 405 method not allowed. So let's create another file over here. Let's call it 405HTML, and over here let's copy this. It's easier. And then let's replace method not allowed e not allowed. Alright, so what we're going to do is, if uh, method isn't equal to get, what we're going to do is that we are going to open up the we're going to open it for 5 file. Then we're going to say pd plus uh, sorry, where's the file method not allowed. Let's only method allowed is okay. So we are gonna forward this forward this response. Okay, so if you take a look at the code, then you can see that this part is repeated over here, and it will continue to get repeated over and over whenever we make a request. So what we can do is that we can create another function and put this part inside that function and call the function. So it's easier to manage. Okay, so otherwise you will repeat the same thing over and over. There's this principle in programming called dry, which stands for do not repeat yourself. So let's create another function, and let's call it send response. Okay, so send response is going to take quite a few. Okay, so send response, and let me copy it from my work so it's easy. Okay, so what it's going to do is that it's going to ask for the socket, file path, the code, the message. So the code is this code, and the message is this method not allowed. All right, and there's a easier way to do this as well. I'm not going to use switch statement. That's hardcore. And then the content type. So I will explain what content type is later. So content type is this. So text forward slash HTML. So at the moment we are only forwarding text files because of that, HTML files because of that we can hard code this. But when you are when we have to handle multiple file types, like when we have to send images and videos and stuff like that, we will have to use different file. We will have to dynamically update this, and to that for that we will need another function. Okay. For now, let's just hard code the value without using a function. Okay. So yeah. So what the so advantage of this is that it should be buffer size. So now what we can do is that we can get rid of this, because they will be created inside this function instead of this. All you have to do is that pass the values, then it will construct these values inside this function. Okay, so let's comment them out, and then comment this one out, and let's call the function which is send response. So sorry. Where are we? Yeah, here. Oh, let's do. Okay, now let's comment this one out as well. So send response. The first argument is the socket. Then we are going to use the file path. Okay, so the file path over here we're going to hard code it. Okay, so let me quickly check. Yeah, so we're going to hard code it. So for this, what we need is 400.html, and then the code is 400. Message is bad request, and the content type is text-based HTML. Alright. So instead of writing all of this stuff over and over again, we can just simply call the function. So we can do it over here as well. So the only difference is that instead of 400, we can call 45, right? And then the message is going to be what is it? Method not allowed. That if you want to check out the what's the associated message to a particular response code, you can look them up in Wikipedia or somewhere. So just Google HTTP response codes and you will get a Wikipedia page. Or I will show you in my browser. Okay, just give me a moment. But that's not allowed. Right? And then I can get rid of this as well. And now it's quite pleasant to the eye. Actually, you can read them quite easily. Oh, oops. All right. So let me show you where I can get the HTTP. So this is one. So all you have to do is Google HTTP response codes and you will get this Wikipedia page. And you have almost all the codes here. Yeah, you have all of them here. You can read and understand if you don't understand what a particular code is. And if this feels like a little bit too technical, sometimes Wikipedia pages are the best source of resource because it's hard to understand sometimes. If so, then you can check this one from MD and WebDocs. Okay, this one's also quite good. Yeah, so that's where you can find the message that's associated with a particular response code. Okay, back to the code. So over here, so we did two things now. We checked whether the request was uh, properly formatted, and then we checked whether the what whether it's a allowed method. Okay, so we did both of them. After that, what we have to do is that uh, we have to check whether the file type is supported. Alright, so for that we are going to need another function. uh, just give me a moment. So it's called get content. Okay, so just uh, you don't panic if this looks too hard. It's just bunch of if statements, that's all. So I'll explain what it is later. Just give me a minute. Put it on here. So returns a jar pointer from a mistake. Just jar. Okay. So if you take a look at right over here, so this is known as the MIME type. So if the requested resource is an HTML file, we say that it's a text-based HTML file, and we forward that to the HTTP header. So where's the process response? And response. No, I haven't included the create header file. Oh, just give me a moment. I have. Yeah, I'll forward this one. Sorry. So there's this another function called send response. I'll put it over here. I'll go through the code one by one. Just give me a moment. So let's go to the code first. So over here, what we're doing is that you understand what process response is, right? So what send response does is that it gets the socket and then the file path, the error code, the error message, the content type. Okay, the content type is determined by this. So we can pass the value from this function, the content type, and then we declare variables to store the header, the open file descriptor, and the file status. And so what we are trying to do is that uh, let's try to load up this layer. Okay, I will explain now. So we're trying to open a particular file. Okay, so this file path could be either hard coded like this, or it could be the file path that's dynamically constructed using the request. And then we try to open it up, and if the file doesn't exist, openfd will be return the open function will return -1 and openfd will be -1. So if we check whether openfd is less than 0, and if it's less than 0, that means that resource isn't found. So what we're going to do is that we are going to send that 404 error. Okay, we haven't created an HTML file for it yet. I will create one. And uh, so over here, then we update the code. Okay, so the code isn't going to be what was passed from here. So uh, yeah, let's understand once the code is completely done. At the moment, let's just keep in mind. So over here we pass a code. Okay, and if the resource isn't found, then the code should be 404, so the final code gets updated. The same thing with the message. The message, it should be not error, it should be, what is it, 404, not found, it should be not found, sorry, not found, it should be not found. Okay, so that's what it's doing. And then we get the file status, we create the header using this function. Okay. And then uh, so this is basically what we did before. Create the header, and then we send the header and the file, and then we close two sockets. Okay, that's what this send response one does. Okay, so over here, what this one does is that we pass the file extension that was constructed either from here or the one that was forwarded using the what the request. Okay, and we check whether is it a supported file type in for this web server. Okay, there are only a limited number of file types that's supported, and if it's not supported, then it's gonna return null. Okay, if the so it's gonna check whether the extension matches any of these scenarios, and if it doesn't match any, it's gonna return null. Okay, as I said that the return statement uh, terminates the function from being executed further. So let's say that the extension that was forwarded was PNG, so it's gonna keep checking these. Okay, and then it comes to this line, and because this was true, this line gets executed, so it's gonna return this, and then the ones below that won't get executed. Okay, that's how the return statement works. So the next step of our process response is to check whether the file type is supported. Before that, let's create the 404 error file, otherwise I would forget. Okay, again, copy from here, then for not found, same thing here with the 404 not found. Okay, uh, so now we have that 404 file. Now what we have to do is, oh yeah, we have to check whether the a file type is supported. So what we're gonna do is, if we're gonna check whether the value that's returned by get content type uh, fe is equal to null. Okay, so the value that was returned by this, if it's null, that means it's an unsupported file type. So unsupported file type. For this one, it should be method not allowed. And then for here, uh, let's just say bad request. Alright. So unsupported file type. What we have to do is send the response. So if we take one for the unsupported file type, uh, unsupported media type, actually not file type. It's unsupported media type. It's 415. Create another one. 415.html, and then let's copy this vt unsupported media type vt okay, unsupported media type. Okay. So what we are going to do over here, we're going to pass 450, and then this should be supported media type. Let's get rid of this thing. Yeah. So what? So we have done quite a few stuff over here. So what's left there to do is, let's see. So now we checked for all possible error cases, not all possible, but enough for this assignment. In my opinion, okay, we checked whether the request is formatted properly. We checked whether the method is allowed and the file type is allowed. Okay, and if any of these become true, it will send the response, and the return value will terminate executing this function any further. So if any of these weren't true, that means that we have a possibly a valid response, a valid request. So what we are going to do is we are going to send the response to sockfd. Over here it's going to be file path, and then 200, and here what we're going to do is get content type fe. Alright, so hope it's clear now. So this is the complete code, if I'm not mistaken. Right, so I will go through the entire code one by one again. So don't worry if you just feel like you have lost a little bit, just hold on. I will go through code entire code again. Okay, so what we are doing is that, so we are checking for errors. If there aren't any errors, then we are going to come to this last line, because if there's an error, then the return statement is going to terminate the function. That the fact that it didn't get terminated means that there aren't any errors except for this 404 error, which is handled by this send response function. So what we are going to do is that we are going to forward the socket, and then the file path, which we constructed using the file path that was given in the request. The 200 means so far it's okay, and then the file type, and we try to open up that file. If the file doesn't exist, then we update the code and the message to 404 and not found. So hope that's clear why I did this way. Okay. And then we send whatever, whether if we found the file, then we find send the file that we found. If we didn't find, if the file wasn't found, then we are gonna send this error, right? Uh, so let's try it out a little bit. Let's create some what? Let's create some HTML files to test this out. Uh, close them all. Public. Let's create. I think I didn't include anything in this. Yeah. So let's add some content. Let's say hello h1 hello p hello from the server. Let's get a little bit fancy and add a 8 active. Href going to be about html go to about. Okay, and then let's create an about.html file as well. About.html about h1 about PHP. This is about. That's all. That's enough. Let's create another directory inside this and call it img and put the image inside that. Yes, move. Let's remove this index.html file, it's not necessary. Let's delete. And then let's create another directory called users. Sorry, it should be a directory, not file. Users. Within that, let's create another file called users.html. Okay, for that, let's add some dummy code. I'm gonna get something from ChatGPT. Just give me a moment. Give me let's put it over here. Alright. So yeah, let's test this out. First of all, let's try to compile. And we forgot to compile. Oh yeah, we got some errors. So what are the errors? Okay, so if I go up, I have create header. I think I have added which one? Implicit declaration 98. Oh yeah, right. I think I called the wrong function. I hear you. That's the problem. Okay, that's done. Right into invite into region as all for this stay. Uh, let's change this to something bigger. 32 bucks. Okay. Find a message. I think that's yeah, that's good. The survey is running. Let's uh, try to get this what public. So if I ask for this one or no, let's not just let's get this index.html What should I do is I can ask for it explicitly. Localhost index.html. Let's see whether we have any error. It is still loading. That's so shit. So let's do some debugging here. Uh, so where should I put that? Okay, I might have to wait for a moment now. Meanwhile, let's check things out. Okay. Okay, so let's try to I compile this, execute. Yes, it's working. Let's make a request again and see. Oh, I didn't call the function. Oh, critical error. I didn't call the function. Let's comment this out. And then what is it? It's process response. SockFD should be connection so that FD method should be basic. It could be good. Let's get this service. Method request. Now basic file path is equal to file path request shell file std get file ext request damages get method set it should be method set method file path and file extension. Okay, hopefully that will do it. Let's see. Compile. Let's before compiling, let's yeah, let's have this on this because we don't know whether it's executing or not. Compile. It's working. Let's make a request, and here we go. You will get the hello from the C server. So that's actually it returned this file, this one, the index.html. So I can go for the about one by clicking over here, and it returns the about, right? And so if I like try to get the, so let's try to get the user, is it user, users, 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 user.html, and then I should take for it. Okay, there's a segmentation fault. What was that? Method null file path not. Let's try to where did I get that? we get in a 4 not for why is that, so it's public, within that users, it's users.html, not user.html, users, oh there you get the this table. Okay, so yeah, one error was handled there actually. So as you might, so if I like try to access a file that doesn't exist, it gives me the 4 error. Okay, let's try to uh, access a file extension that's not allowed, something like this, and then 515 media media type not supported. So the error handling is also not here. Okay, we can access the that image as well. Okay, so for that what I have to do is 8080 it should be img pg, and then I get the image. Okay, so like this I can send videos as well. So let's try that one out. New folder, it's called vid. Okay, to that I'm gonna copy this video there. Alright, and let's call it vid as well, it's easier to use there. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is then I'm going to try to request this video. So what I'm going to do is go vid.mp4,
C. A
and
statically typed
yeah, you got the video. So I'm gonna mute this so I can talk over this, so you can play the video. So one thing you might notice is that if I try to pick over here, it doesn't take any loading time. Why is that? Because uh, the web server sent the entire file. So like the entire video is in the browser right now. So unlike in YouTube, where if you like try to fast forward like quite a good distance, then it's gonna take some time to load, but it doesn't happen over here because we send the entire file. So that's what we have to cover in optimization, because for this video it's fine because it's like what 2.5 minutes long. But if you are like sharing like really large videos that's like 2-3 hours long, then it's gonna take a real long time for that video to load in the browser because we are sending the entire file. So they need to be handled in optimization. That's one. Then there's also going to be multi-threading and stuff. So those are the stuff we will I will cover in optimization. Hopefully I'll be able to do it soon as well. uh, so yeah, this is the code, this is the entire code, this, and if you follow this you're probably able to cover 90% of what's required. Okay, before I stop, let's go through this code once again so you have an idea what happened. Okay, so this is the basic stuff. I don't think I have to go through them again here. So what we are doing is that we are calling these three functions. So we have this request. Okay, this is we get requests like this. So we have these three functions: get method, get file path, and get file extension. To get this method and the entire file path, and then we are gonna get this file extension. Okay, so this .jpg one. So and we are gonna get those and store them in these variables, and we are gonna pass them into this process response function. And what process response does is that it's gonna check whether uh, so what this does is that it's gonna check whether the method or the file path are null pointers, and if they're null pointers, that means that there's a problem with the request. Okay, so that's why we're sending this 400 bad request message. And then it's gonna check whether there's a file extension. If there isn't a file extension, then we assume that the provided file path is actually a directory path instead of pointing to a specific resource. So if it's a directory path, then we are what the web server should do is that it should return the index.html file inside that directory. So that's what we are doing over here. We are saying that the file extension is going to be .html, and we are concatenating index.html into the constructed file path. So if there isn't a file extension, this one's gonna look like what a directory path without a protector file. Okay, so that's what we're doing here, and we're checking whether the method is an allowed method. Okay, if the method isn't allowed, then it's gonna send this error. And then if the content type is supported, and if there isn't an error with the request, then we try to send the response. In the response, there's a buffer to store the header, and then there's file descriptors and file steps, which we covered before. So the final code, I think you have an idea right now. So this one is useful in this scenario. Okay, when these errors don't catch an issue, so what we do is that we send this 200 code, but if there is an error, that code should get updated to 404. So that's why we have this final code and final message thing. And so yeah, once they are done, we send you the message. So this one creates a header. So it's basically, you know what? So it's basically printf. If you don't want this, you can remove this create header and just use printf as a, I don't know why I created a specific function for that. Probably I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, technically you can remove this and you use printf over here. It looks better in my opinion. Might do it later. You guys do it on your own. I'm not gonna do that. And then over here we get the file content type. So uh, when we get the content type, so we get the file extension here. So using this function get file extension, it gets stored in this file extension variable, and then it gets passed into process response as an fv as an argument to the fv parameter, and then that gets passed into get content type. Then it's gonna return the content type that we should include in the header. So that's it. That's the code. I will share the code in the WhatsApp group once this video is uploaded. Alright. If you guys have any issues, uh, just drop me a message. Okay, so the macOS, the people who try to write this in macOS might face some issues because there are a couple some header files might be different and stuff like that. And if you encounter any issues and if you don't understand what the ChatGPT or DeepSeek or Claude or whatever the AI model you says, then drop me a message and I will try to do my best to help you. The only request I have is that don't wait till the last moment, because if you're like waited till the last moment, then I would have like 100 messages and I won't be able to check all of them. Then you are going to panic, and then I will be stressed because I won't be able to help you guys out. So it's not gonna look good. So the only request I have is that I don't mind helping you guys out, but just don't wait till the last moment. So that's pretty much it for this video. Okay, I will drop the other video as soon as possible as well. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day and goodbye.